Picture this: a man dismissed as insignificant by his wife's family, only to rise to riches and face their sudden demand to unravel a legal safeguard they once forced upon him. One bold move left them speechless, stripped of influence. That man is me, Ethan, and this is the story of how I navigated betrayal, stood my ground, and reclaimed my life. Buckle up. It's a wild ride. It all began when I was 23, fresh out of college, and diving into my first job at a tech firm in Seattle. That's where I met Emily, at a friend's summer barbecue. She was finishing her teaching degree, her laughter and warmth drawing everyone in like moths to a flame. I was smitten from the moment we locked eyes. Emily came from a cushioned world. Her father, Robert, owned a chain of car dealerships, and her mother, Patricia, ran a stylish boutique in Bellevue. They weren't billionaires, but their wealth made life smooth. My family, by contrast, was the heartbeat of middle-class America. My dad was a plumber, my mom a school teacher, raising me and my two brothers in a cozy but modest home in Tacoma. We never went hungry, but luxuries like family trips or new sneakers were special occasions. Emily and I clicked instantly, our connection electric. Within a year, I knew she was my forever, and I proposed under the stars at a park we loved for lazy Sunday strolls. Her yes felt like the world aligning, but her parents weren't so enchanted. Robert, in particular, made it clear I didn't measure up. Their disapproval wasn't loud. It came in subtle jabs like, "So Ethan, what's your big plan for the next 5 years?" Or, "Emily's used to a certain way of living, you know?" I brushed it off, my love for Emily a shield, and she always stood by me, her faith in us unwavering. As we planned our wedding, her parents dropped a bombshell, a prenup. One evening, Robert summoned me to his study after dinner, his face grave, as if he were about to share profound wisdom. Instead, he slid a thick stack of papers across his desk. "It's just a precaution, Ethan," he said, his tone patronizing. "To protect Emily's future. I'm sure you understand." I didn't understand. I felt insulted, my pride bruised. Why did they assume I'd ever harm her? I was barely earning $40,000 a year, but I had dreams, a fire to prove myself to Emily, to them, to the world. The prenup was a cold slap, declaring that if we ever parted, I'd leave with only what I'd earned, nothing from her family's wealth or assets. It was about guarding her, not building our shared future. Every word stung. I brought it to Emily, hoping she'd see my hurt, but she downplayed it. "It's just a formality, Ethan," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It doesn't change how much I love you." Beneath her calm, I sensed her struggle, torn between me and her parents. Not wanting to force her into a corner, I swallowed my anger and signed. I told myself it was meaningless. I wasn't marrying her for money. Looking back, that moment was a mistake, letting her parents set the tone for our marriage. But at the time, I thought I was keeping the peace, hoping they'd come to see me as family, that the prenup would fade into a forgotten drawer as we built our life together. Our wedding was breathtaking, but tinged with unease. My family arrived in borrowed or budget suits, while Emily's relatives looked like they'd stepped out of a high society magazine. There was no overt clash, but the divide was palpable, a silent undercurrent. After the wedding, we settled into a cozy apartment in Seattle. Emily began teaching at a local elementary school, and I kept grinding at my tech job. Those early years were a mix of struggle and joy. We pinched pennies, cooked dinners at home, and dreamed big. Her parents occasionally remarked on our frugal ways, but we were content, our love a fortress against their doubts. Yet the prenup lingered in my mind, a quiet shadow. It wasn't something we dwelled on, but it symbolized her family's distrust. Robert's sarcastic comments about my job or our finances cut deep, fueling my drive to prove them wrong. Patricia would make playful remarks about how wise they'd been to have me sign it, her smiles masking the jab. I stayed silent, pouring my energy into my career and my devotion to Emily, determined not to let their skepticism define us. But years later, I'd see that prenup for what it was, a constant reminder that her family never thought I was enough. As our lives evolved, that document ignited a storm I never saw coming. The rise to riches. After years of grinding in my tech job, things began to shift, not in a flash, but through small victories that snowballed. At 27, I hit a milestone that changed everything, though the path wasn't easy. I'd been at my company for 4 years, feeling trapped in a role that paid decently, but offered little growth. I knew I needed a bold move. A coworker, Nathan, sparked an idea when he shared his freelance coding gig for startups. His monthly side hustle checks dwarfed our salaries, and it lit a fire in me. I'd always been sharp at coding and problem solving, so I spent weekends honing my skills, diving into new languages and frameworks, tinkering with side projects. Emily thought I was overdoing it. "You're already working full-time," she'd say, her tone a mix of concern and frustration. "Why pile on more?" But I couldn't ignore the opportunity. After 6 months of freelancing, I landed a client that flipped the script, a startup needing a full back-end system. The pay was unlike anything I'd seen, and they offered stock options. Unsure of their worth, I trusted my gut and dove in. For the next year, I worked like a man possessed, 40 hours at my day job, then every spare moment on the startup project. Weekends, late nights, early mornings. Emily grew frustrated as I missed dinners or stayed glued to my laptop during what should have been our movie nights. We had small spats about balance, and I'd promise just a little longer, though I'm not sure either of us believed it. Then, the startup was acquired by a larger firm, and my stock options soared. One day, we were stretching to cover bills. The next, we could clear our mortgage, car loans, and still have a cushion. Emily was floored when I told her, her disbelief laced with pride. I quit my tech job the following week, a dream I'd held for years. My boss tried to guilt me into staying. "You're one of our best, Ethan. Are you sure?" But I was done. I had bigger plans. First, I surprised Emily with a trip to Maui, a place we'd dreamed of but couldn't afford. The beaches, sunsets, and shared laughter felt like a reset, though my mind was already racing with what was next. I loved the freedom of working for myself, the challenge, the control. That's when I decided to start my own company. Using the startup payout, I launched a property management business. Real estate had always intrigued me, a stable way to grow wealth without being tied to a desk. Starting was brutal. Legal hurdles, staffing, learning curves, but I threw myself into it, guided by books, workshops, and a mentor from my freelancing days. Slowly, things clicked. By 30, the business was thriving beyond my expectations. We had a growing client base and a reliable team handling daily operations. For the first time, I wasn't scraping by. I was secure, proud of my journey. I hoped Emily's family would finally see me differently, but their response was far from what I'd imagined. The prenup resurfaces. It started subtly. Robert began calling for investment advice, asking my thoughts on commercial properties. At first, I was flattered, thinking he valued my expertise. But soon, his questions turned personal. "Could you invest with me, Ethan, just to get things rolling?" he'd say. The deal sounded risky, and I politely declined, noticing a chill in his tone afterward. Emily sensed it too, asking if something was wrong, but I brushed it off, not wanting to stir tension. Patricia had her own approach, dropping hints about their financial strains. "Life's gotten so expensive," she'd sigh, her smile tight. It's tough to maintain our lifestyle now that Robert's semi-retired. You and Emily are so fortunate to have such stability." That word, fortunate, grated on me. It wasn't luck. It was years of late nights, sacrifices, and grit. I stayed quiet to avoid conflict, but the unease grew. Things escalated one weekend at their Bellevue home. Dinner started pleasantly, grilled salmon, casual chatter. But Robert blindsided me. "Ethan, I've been thinking about that prenup we had you sign," he said, slicing his fish. "It feels outdated now, don't you think? You've built a wonderful life for Emily." I froze. The prenup was a distant memory, something I thought we'd moved past. "What about it?" I asked, my voice cautious. Patricia jumped in. "Things have changed, Ethan. Back then, we were protecting Emily. But now, with your success, it seems unnecessary. We're family after all." That word, family, felt like a trap. I glanced at Emily, hoping she'd speak up, but she stayed quiet, staring at her plate. It was clear she knew this was coming. "Honestly, I don't see why we need to change it," I said, keeping my tone even. "It's not affecting us. It's just a piece of paper in a drawer." Robert's smile tightened, and Patricia shot Emily a look, as if saying, "Talk some sense into him." But no one pushed further that night. On the drive home, I asked Emily, "Why didn't you say anything?" She sighed, gazing out the window. "I don't want to be stuck in the middle, Ethan. You know how my parents are. They just want what's best for me." "And what about what's best for us?" I countered. "This is our marriage, not theirs. The prenup's never been an issue, so why now?" She didn't have a clear answer, just said, "Talk to them, okay? Don't stress." But I did stress. A lot. Over the next few weeks, the pressure didn't let up. Robert and Patricia kept bringing up the prenup, always framing it as a casual chat. Emily grew defensive, saying things like, "You've got nothing to lose by canceling it." I started feeling like I was fighting a two-front battle, against her parents and, increasingly, against her. I loved Emily, but her silence hurt. The breaking point came when Patricia called me at work. After small talk, she pivoted to the prenup. "Ethan, keeping it makes it look like you don't trust Emily. That's not fair to her." I'd had enough. "With all due respect, Patricia, this isn't your call. Emily and I are fine with how things are." There was a pause. Then she said, "Well, if you're set on keeping it, we'll see how Emily feels about that in the long run." It wasn't outright threatening, but it felt like a warning. That night, I told Emily what her mom said. She wasn't surprised, just said, "They're worried about me, Ethan. They don't mean harm." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the prenup. It was about control. Her parents had always had a say in her life, and now they were trying to pull my strings too. Update. The tension escalates. "Hey everyone, Ethan again. Thanks for the support. It's been a wake-up call. Writing this has clarified things, and hearing from others in similar spots helps. Things haven't improved. The pressure's only intensified. Emily's been bringing up the prenup more, and her tone's shifting. It's not just, 'we should discuss it' anymore. It's, 'if you trusted me, you'd dissolve it.' We've had arguments, the last one getting heated. I told her, 'This isn't about trust, Emily. It's about your parents trying to control us.' She fired back, 'Or maybe it's about you not trusting me. What kind of husband keeps this after all these years?' That stung. I said, 'The prenup wasn't an issue for years. The only thing that's changed is your parents seeing dollar signs.' She called me paranoid, her go-to defense now. I knew we needed a real talk, away from distractions, so I suggested a weekend at a cabin we used to love, a peaceful spot by a river in Snohomish. I thought it could help us reset. Emily agreed, but her mood showed she wasn't thrilled. At the cabin, things started okay. We cooked dinner together, a fleeting moment of normalcy, but the tension was thick. The next morning, on the dock by the river, I cut to the chase. "Emily, what's really going on? Is this about us or your parents?" She sighed, visibly annoyed. "This is about us, Ethan. My parents don't control me. I'm the one saying the prenup doesn't make sense anymore. I wasn't convinced." "Come on, Emily. Your parents pushed this from the start, and now they're the ones trying to ditch it. That's no coincidence." She turned, her face serious. "You're acting like they're the villains when they just want what's best for me." "What about what's best for us?" I shot back. "This is our marriage, not theirs. I'm not letting them dictate our choices." That's when she said something that floored me. "Maybe the problem's you, Ethan. Maybe you're so caught up in your insecurities, you can't see how unfair this is to me." Insecure? I was livid. "You think I'm insecure because I won't tear up a document your parents forced on me? The same one they insisted on because they didn't trust me?" She shrugged. "If you can't trust me now, maybe we shouldn't be talking about a future together." That hit like a punch, but I hid it. "Wow, so you're threatening to leave because I won't cave to your parents?" "Real mature, Emily." "It's not a threat," she said, her voice cold. "It's the truth. If you're obsessed with this prenup, maybe you don't see me as your partner anymore. Maybe you're waiting for me to mess up so you can walk away with everything." That was it. I stood up, looked her in the eye, and said, "Don't twist this like I'm the issue. I've worked my tail off for everything we have, with zero help from your parents. If anyone should question loyalty, it's me." She stared, silent, and I walked back to the cabin to cool off. The rest of the trip was a disaster. We barely spoke, and when we did, it was tense. By the time we headed home, it was clear we were on different planets. I've got my first therapy session this week, hoping it'll help me sort out my next steps. Right now, I feel like I'm in a minefield, trying not to blow everything up. I love Emily, but this is making me question everything. If anyone's been through this, I'd love your advice. Thanks for having my back. Update: a devastating revelation. Hey everyone, Ethan here with grim news. Things have gone from bad to catastrophic, and I'm not sure my marriage can survive. Last Wednesday, I came home to find Emily's entire family in my living room: Robert, Patricia, her sister Claire, and Emily herself. Like an ambush. The second I walked in, Robert started, "Ethan, we've talked, and it's time to resolve this prenup issue. It's tearing the family apart." I couldn't believe it. Last I checked, this was about my marriage, not a group project. I looked at Emily, hoping she'd shut it down, but she just stared at the floor. "Look," I said, trying to stay calm. "I've been clear. The prenup stays. This isn't up for debate." Patricia jumped in. "Ethan, you're being unreasonable. Emily's given everything to this marriage, and you're treating her like she's disposable." "Disposable?" I said, my voice rising. "I've spent years building a life for us while dealing with your constant meddling. With respect, Patricia, this is between Emily and me." She didn't back down. "It is our business when it affects the family. If you cared about Emily, you'd see how this prenup hurts her." Before I could respond, Robert said something chilling. "You're not the only one with options, Ethan. Emily deserves protection, and if you can't see that, maybe this marriage isn't as solid as you think." It felt like a veiled threat, and I wasn't having it. "Are you seriously saying my marriage hinges on tearing up a document you forced on me? You've got some nerve, Robert." The room went silent. Claire, Emily's younger sister, fidgeted uncomfortably. She's always been the quiet one, less entangled in the family drama. I didn't think much of it then, but I should have sensed something brewing. Eventually, I told everyone to leave. I wasn't going to be ganged up on in my own home. Emily stayed, and we had our worst fight ever. She called me stubborn and selfish. I told her I was done being treated like a bank account by her and her parents. It got so heated she stormed out, saying she'd stay at her parents' for a few days. I didn't stop her. The next day, Claire called. We rarely talk outside family gatherings, so I was surprised. She sounded nervous, asking to meet in person. I agreed, thinking she might apologize for the intervention. At a coffee shop, Claire looked exhausted, glancing around like she feared being seen. Finally, she said, "Ethan, I overheard something you need to know." What she told me turned my world upside down. Apparently, Emily and her parents had been plotting for months. Claire overheard them at a family dinner, thinking she wasn't listening. "They said the prenup has to go before Emily can leave you," Claire said, her voice trembling. "It's the only way she gets what she deserves." I was floored. "Leave me? Why would she want to leave?" Claire hesitated, then dropped the bombshell. "Because she's been seeing someone else. Her parents know, Ethan. That's why they're pushing to cancel the prenup. They think if she divorces you with it in place, she'll get nothing." It felt like the ground vanished beneath me. I asked if she was sure, and she nodded. I didn't want to believe it, but I heard it all. They even talked about making you look like the bad guy. I sat there, stunned, as Claire looked genuinely upset. "Why tell me?" I asked. She sighed. "Because it's wrong, Ethan. You don't deserve this. I've always thought you were a good guy, and I hate how my family's treating you." I thanked her and promised to keep her out of it. After she left, I sat for hours, replaying everything. The late nights working, the prenup fights, Emily's sudden shift. It all made sense. When I got home, I checked our finances and found unfamiliar charges: restaurants, hotels, jewelry stores. I haven't confronted Emily yet, but I'm gathering evidence. I called my lawyer, who advised me to stay calm and avoid rash moves, but that's easier said than done. I'm figuring out my next steps, feeling betrayed on a level I never imagined. If anyone has advice, I'm all ears. Thanks for sticking with me. Final update: reclaiming my life. Hey everyone, Ethan here, hopefully for the last time. This has been a chaotic, heart-wrenching journey, but I've made it through, and it feels incredible to reclaim my life. After Claire's revelation, she's the real hero here, I moved fast. My lawyer and I were a well-oiled machine. The evidence of Emily's affair, the shady charges, and her parents' involvement made the divorce a breeze. When I confronted Emily, she didn't deny it. She cried, played the victim, and threw out excuses. "I was so lonely while you worked," or "You cared more about your job than me." I wasn't buying it. "You don't get to blame me for your choices," I told her. "I was busting my tail to give us a dream life, and you threw it away." She tried to flip it. "If you'd paid more attention, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere." That stung, but I stayed firm. "You made a choice, Emily, and now you live with it." Her face when I said I'd already filed for divorce was priceless. She acted shocked, then begged for another chance. "We can fix this, Ethan. Counseling, a fresh start, anything." I told her there was no fixing this. The trust was gone, and her actions spoke louder than words. Now, let's talk about that prenup, that beautiful life-saving document. Thanks to the ironclad agreement her family pushed years ago, Emily got nothing, not a cent of my hard-earned money, no spousal support, no assets. Her affair sealed her fate legally. Her parents were livid. Patricia left ranting voicemails, saying I was ruining Emily's life and needed to be the bigger person. The audacity. I didn't respond. My lawyer had me document everything in case they tried something, but they backed off when they saw they had no leverage. I later learned why they were so desperate to ditch the prenup. Robert and Patricia's finances were a mess. Their businesses had been bleeding money for years, their lavish lifestyle a facade. When Emily moved back in, the cracks showed. She went from our beautiful home to her childhood bedroom, no more designer clothes or spa days. From what I hear, they're all struggling to keep up appearances, but it's only a matter of time before it collapses. As for Emily's other guy, he vanished once things fell apart. Claire told me he was a serial dater, never serious, just stringing Emily along. When he realized she had no access to my money, he was gone. So there she was, jobless, broke, stuck with parents who couldn't bail her out. Karma, right? I thought that was the end, but Emily showed up at my office weeks after the divorce, unannounced. My assistant tried to stop her, but she barged in, looking rough, messy hair, wrinkled clothes, desperate eyes. "Ethan, I made a mistake," she sobbed. "Please, forgive me." I leaned back, part of me wanting to laugh at her nerve, but mostly just done. "Emily, you didn't make a mistake. You made choices that destroyed our marriage. Forgiveness doesn't fix that." She tried everything, apologies, blaming her parents, promising to change, even hinting at rekindling. "We can start over," she said. I shut it down. "You planned to leave me while trying to take what I built. That's not love." When she saw I wasn't budging, she got angry. "You'll regret this, Ethan. You'll end up alone, realizing you pushed away the one person who cared." I shook my head. "You didn't care about me. You cared about the life I provided. Now figure things out on your own." I had security escort her out, and that was the last I saw of her. Life's quieter now. Claire and I still talk. She apologized for her family, though she didn't need to. She was the only one with the guts to do right, and I'll always be grateful. I hear Robert and Patricia's finances are worsening, and I feel for Claire, caught in the middle. But the rest? They made their bed. This taught me to stand my ground. People will try to manipulate or guilt you, but you've got to protect yourself. To anyone dealing with toxic in-laws or a shady partner, trust your gut and hold firm. It's tough, but worth it. Thanks for sticking with me through this saga.
Thank you for listening. Please share your thoughts, like this video if you found it helpful, and